This is Broadcast Beat Magazine with Ryan Salazar.
Ryan Salazar here with Broadcast Beat Magazine. We've got a special guest this morning, CEO of Aframe, David Peto. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing excellent, man. So tell us how Aframe got started.
Of course, but 6.5 years of my life, it feels like a long time ago now. But Aframe came out of the fact that I used to be a producer, kind of always technically forward-looking, shooting HD before it was mainstream, and then my production company morphed into a post house that was the first all Final Cut and all running off XAN facility in Europe, which kind of did very well for itself, which was nice. But while I was there, I just saw that everybody had the same problem, and it really didn't matter whether it was a broadcaster or a production company or an enterprise, just huge volumes of content being shot, no way to store it and keep it safe, huge amounts of metadata, no ability to collaborate amongst all their teams around the world. And so they were just suffering huge headaches, and a lot of them didn't want to put a lot of gear in on-premise anymore. So I somewhat arrogantly thought, you know what, I might be able to build this. So instead about trying to build a cloud platform that's powerful enough and secure enough to handle all this media, but simple enough to use, that actually the thousands of people who actually now engage in the process but aren't actually video people can actually use it and do everything they need to do in a web browser now. So that was it, and it started from a one-room office above a really, really dodgy alleyway above a strip joint in Soho. And we're a little bigger than that today, but it was an amazing time.
Excellent. That's a cool story. So now, you guys are cloud-based, and the cloud, it's certainly a hot topic in the broadcast and post industry right now. With so many vendors in the industry, how is Aframe different from other solutions?
So the big difference with us really is that this is all our own IP. So this is all our own technology. We haven't bought the stuff off the floor at IBC or NAB and chucked it together and tried to make it turn into a cloud system. So that we actually have been designed from the ground up as a pure cloud system. And by cloud, meaning there's no box in your office, there's no thing running in your data center, but truly using everything and allowing you to access it from the browser. And the second thing is we have chosen to own and operate our own cloud. So we're not running on Amazon or Azure or anything else. We own every piece of hardware. We have control of the network. And that means all we do is video. So you don't have to worry about our cloud running someone's finance app or someone's website or whatever else. And because we've got control of the entire stack top to bottom, that's kind of why we think, anyway, a lot of the really big names in the industry are choosing to utilize our system. And then finally, we really do go end to end, from the camera right through edit, right through to helping people monetize content at the other end, all in one system. So all in all, it's like I said, it's been fun getting here. Not always been easy, but now that we've got all that built, I think that's why people are trusting us and we're different.
All right, and David, how are you guys different from Amazon S3 anyways? I know you're not on their platform, but just curious.
Oh, so I mean, at its core, we're not that different, right? We run on commodity hardware, the same as Amazon does. We're object ID based, same as Amazon is. The difference really is the fact that everything is optimized for video and media. And that's really the difference there. And then also for our customers, they really like the fact that the entire thing is under our control. So let's put it this way. Let's say I'd chosen to run on Amazon and Amazon had a wobble. And in fact, it had one last week, I think, and took Netflix and everybody offline. I think all Reddit went offline, which was quite something. It was quite surprising, the outcry of that one. But if I was on that, my customers are going to phone me and go, David, when are you going to be back? Because their workflows aren't going to stop. And if my answer is, oh, I'll tell you when Amazon tells me, that's not good enough if you're in the middle of a broadcast workflow. Because we've got control of the entire infrastructure, we know exactly how it works, self-healing, we can fix it in any way we need, as well as the entire software stack. That means that if we do have a problem, and absolutely nobody is perfect, and we're no better than anybody else in that regard, we have the ability to fix it, which means that people trust us with kind of the hardcore workflows because they know we have that level of control and they really appreciate it.
And we hear a lot about private and public clouds. Can you describe the difference between both?
Well, really, so the private cloud instance that's normally used is a company choosing to host and run its software in its own data centers, so on its own cloud, effectively. Public cloud is obviously Amazon or Azure or wherever else where you could have almost any application running at any time, right? And that comes with benefits in some areas on cost, obviously, but it also comes with weaknesses, which is, of course, you've got to look after a multitude of different needs for a multitude of different platforms and the challenges that brings through. The easiest way that we choose to describe this is we have what we call the cloud straight face test, which is if you tell someone that you are a cloud, but you actually have to put a box in your data center as a customer, and they kind of snigger at you, right? That means you're not a cloud. If you're running something that is a sort of a splintered piece of hardware and software that runs only on equipment just for that customer, that's not cloud, that's hosted. And that will give you all kinds of scaling issues, collaboration issues as you grow and start to work with all the people around the world we need to work with. True cloud is multi-tenant. Everyone's sharing the same hardware and compute power. The only difference with us is our cloud only does video and media versus someone like Amazon that looks after everything else.
And so what type of cloud are you guys on?
So it's our own servers in LA, New York, London, and then we have another data center in a place called Sunderland in the northeast of England, which isn't quite as glamorous as LA, New York, or London, so we don't always talk about it. But commodity hardware, so we benefit from the same pricing drops in compute and storage as everybody else does, but solely optimized for video and media. And it allows us to do things like, for example, you can choose on Aframe where your media lives. You can guarantee it lives in America. You can guarantee it lives in Europe. You can even choose, for an example, to have New York as your primary data center, because that's where you're going to be doing most of your post-production. And when you upload into us, we hold 2 copies of your content in its original format, and then copy a 3rd copy down a completely private fiber connection to Los Angeles. So you end up with 3 copies, coast-to-coast replicated, in an entirely private environment, meaning we can guarantee that not 1 gig of your media will leave our network unless you choose it does. So it's those kind of things that, we're effectively on the core of it, commodity hardware, the same as Amazon or else, but it's these kind of things that for video people and broadcasters in our industry is really important. What
types of broadcast workflows get the greatest rewards when moving into the cloud?
So it's actually not so much the workflow, it's the type of customer more than the workflow. So obviously there's some givens, right? So wherever there is a lot of content and wherever there's a lot of people who need to see it and where they are geographically dispersed, either multiple office within a country or multi-region or even multi-continent, that is where the cloud is going to give you the biggest benefit, because it is just almost impossible to make those workflows work across those distances and with those numbers of people. The cloud is, I'm always honest, right? The cloud is not necessarily going to dramatically increase your workflow if you all work out of one office here in Soho and you film round the corner and you post in the post house next door, right? It's not going to make a dramatic difference for you. But when you are a large organization or a growing organization where you're starting to get more offices, where you're starting to have more people who need to be able to collaborate across time zones or even just cross city, being able to bring all those people together and collaborate, which is the real key, that's when you start to see the big difference. So, we see huge parts of this in areas like sports and news, fast turnaround. Lots of people want to access that content. They need it in the format they need it in as fast as they can. We transcode as well out of our cloud, through to really big dramas and reality shows where they may be filming in multiple remote locations, and the ability to get that media back either in low or high res fast to be able to have everybody see and catch problems before they leave those locations is equally as useful. So it goes across a really broad spectrum.
How does Aframe help organizations save money?
Well, so apart from the fact that you've got things like not having to spend, hundreds of thousands on-premise equipment, you also don't have to plan for peak capacity, right? So whenever you are buying on-premise, you tend to obviously have to buy for what you think is going to be your maximum load, which is incredibly inefficient because for large parts of the year, you're often not utilizing it to its maximum benefit. So obviously with the cloud and guys like us, that isn't a problem. That's the first thing. The second thing is you start to see really big speed increases and removing blocks in the workflow. Even just as simple as having to wait hours for someone to review and approve something when you're sat in an expensive edit suite that's costing you an expensive editor, that's costing you your editing time, it's costing you real estate. You want to really sweat every asset you have, be that people or hardware. And so even just being able to have that reviewed quickly or by the producer on their phone, and that's the simplest workflow, really starts saving you time there. Through to things like, we've had productions here now who shot half the amount of footage that they'd shot on the previous series because they actually could see that they had the stories earlier. And by getting the media back quickly and allowing everyone to start the edit quickly off the back of that, they saved 22 weeks in edit. I mean, that is a massive cost saving. But the really interesting bit is it's not just about saving the money, right? It's once you've got all that content in a central place and it's all got metadata so you can actually find it, you start to see huge increases in content usage. And that goes all the way through to things like sales teams being able to actually get content out to people who want to buy it. And we've helped people dramatically increase their revenue off the back there, to even just being able to get your brand message out to your customers faster and more reactively, which means they're going to engage with your company more, which means hopefully they'll buy more of your product or whichever way you go. So it goes the whole gamut of it.
David, the other hot topic these days is security. So what do you guys tell organizations when they're considering a cloud-based platform?
So it's a lot of key things. The first thing is that nobody is 100% hack-proof, and anybody who says that should be taken out and shot. The main thing we tell them is the nice thing about what we do is security is something we do every single day. And I'm not saying that they don't, but they have multiple different things they have to worry about every single day. Our only thing we have to worry about is the security and safety of your content. And again, that is why we've chosen to control and own the IP to our entire ecosystem, because that means things like not having vulnerabilities in someone else's product that we don't know about, opening up holes into Aframe. Vulnerabilities into someone else's cloud, again, opening up holes into Aframe. Being able to guarantee the encryption policies, guarantee where it's stored, guarantee the way that it's stored, guarantee the way that people access it, all those different things. But regardless of kind of the differences with Aframe, the real way I look at security is that the move to the cloud is a business choice, not really a security choice. And it's this, it's when you lift your content up and you're allowing people access to it remotely, you are absolutely allowing people to access it more easily than them having to come into your office, because they can do it from from their laptop and everywhere else at home. But it's a balancing act between increasing your collaboration, allowing your team to work more effectively on a global basis, do something when inspiration strikes, versus understanding what it means to have your content be able to be accessed externally. And to me, that is the most important thing, and getting people to understand over and above diving through a whole load of encryption policies, important though those are.
At the recent 2015 NAB show, I was speaking with you and you gave us a demo of Adobe Anywhere running in the cloud. Can you tell us some more about that?
Yeah, I can. I called it a dream I'd wanted to do for years when we first launched it, and that's absolutely 100% still the truth. I'm so excited about this. So we've been working with Adobe, and we launched it in kind of a preview at NAB. What we've done is taken Anywhere, which obviously needed on-premise hardware and need to be integrated into an asset management system and storage and everything else. And we virtualized it and put it into Aframe's cloud now. We've made it multi-tenant, so it scales. We've put security layers on it, everything else you need, so that you can now, on Aframe, log in, organize all of your footage, rough cut, add metadata, share it, review it, and get it ready, and then hit one button, and you can stream edit without downloading a single thing off our servers using Adobe Premiere running on your laptop or in your office. And when we finish, you just hit export and it goes back to the original content that's held on Aframe. And remember, because we handle any format, that could be 4K even, and render out a finished version ready to go. So for the first time ever, you have a completely cloud workflow with no download. And so I'm not today saying we want people to go cut feature films on this. We're pitching it very much really at promos and versioning and where people have lots of people they need to work with content. But we've got our first customers on it now in the beta. It's going to go into a more open beta towards the back end of this year with a kind of more bigger push out at the kind of early next.
This could be potentially the future of editing.
I hope so. I mean, the thing for me is that to be clear, I'm a traditionalist on one hand, right? There is no replacement for everyone being able to be in a room together and editing together, the customer, everyone else. Because the thing of being a great editor is it's as much reading someone's body language and what they're not saying as what they are saying when you're trying to work together creatively. I'm not intending to try and replace that. That's hugely important. What I see it as is bringing our industry, frankly, into the modern world where every single other, it doesn't matter if it's finances or any other corporate, now has ability to work from anywhere, the ability to access content and collaborate with anybody across their data, kind of like Salesforce did in the CRM world. That's what I see. The big dream for me with Adobe Anywhere, I can't wait for my first editor customer to go, do you know what? I was able to work away in the office. The edit was running late. I was able to close my laptop, go home, see my kids, kiss them goodnight, have supper, and then open up my laptop and keep going. Now that to me is the real thing to me that is exciting and where I see this going in the future.
David Peto, CEO and founder of Aframe. Thanks so much for spending some time with us.
No problem, Ryan. Always a pleasure.